signs of that lately.
Sorry to cut away from Chris Fawkes, but that England press conference has just started, so let's cross there.
Would have been an opportunity, so I felt like you just got to be in the game, and like I said, we got a chance, and Jude pulled in the back.
Most international sides now play with just one forward. Do you sometimes feel that you would prefer to be playing in a different international era? In the past we had strike partnerships like Shearer and Sheringham, Lineker and Beardsley. Do you think it's time for Tony and Kane?
Well, I'm not the manager, so but yeah, obviously I'd like to be playing as a two, but obviously the gaffer and his choice is final, so we've got to respect that and we've got to go by that. But like I said, if I'm asked to play, whether it's a one or a two, then I'll do my best for the squad.
Alex.
Hi, Ivan. After Gareth Southgate said you had the hump with him for bringing him on, he said you made up. So how did you make up?
By winning. Yeah, obviously every player is going to have a bit of a hump. Not playing games, and especially when it's like 1 minute to go, you want a bit more than that. And luckily we managed to get the equaliser. Then it was up to me to kind of put myself in a better space, get on my mood, and then get on with the game. And I think I've done that and managed to contribute to getting H's goal.
You're a guy who's used to playing lots of minutes at your club with Brentford. What's it like being a player who hasn't played too regularly so far in this squad? What's the feeling amongst yourself and the other players?
Yeah, it's always going to be tough. It's going to be tough for all of us because, like you said, most of us play week in, week out for our club, so it's always tough. But I mean, from the beginning of my career, I've gone down this route a few times as well, being a sub and waiting and being patient on coming on. So I guess I've got to do that again now, and hopefully when I get my opportunity, I can take it.
Jason, what's the support been like from Gareth? He spoke really well when you were banned and couldn't play about the support that he was going to give you, and I believe he gave you a call. How has he been for you in your career?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, what goes on, things happen in life. You just got to get on with it, move forward, and yeah, the kind of person I am, I don't want people feeling sorry for me and too much putting their arm around me and saying things will be okay and this and that. I mean, I'm a grown man now. I take things on the chin and just move forward with it. So I'm here now, helping my country, and that's all I can look forward to.
Hi, Ivan. You say, so rather modestly, that the ball fell to Jude, but I mean, you took the markers away, you pinned their six. How much of that was something that you worked on, the set play, obviously from Kyle's throw and then the flick on? How much of that is just your own instinct?
I think, yeah, our own instinct. I feel like we do a lot of club football. If you can't get the ball, then affect someone else. Like take the defender in, and I managed to try and put my body around and do that. I feel like I dragged the defender away. Then, obviously, taking the credit away from Jude, he's got a lot to do there and put the ball in the back of the net. But yeah, I think, like I said, create space for others. A run is not a wasted run, even if you don't get the ball.
Your penalty record is remarkable, 13 out of 32. How much of that is technique and practice, and how much of that is just nerves?
Yeah, personally, a lot on me. I like to practice all the time and try and just keep hitting the back of the net with penalties. So that's what I try and do in training, and yeah, just stay on top of it, really.
Okay, fine.
Hi, Ivan. Nice to see you again.
Okay.
When we spoke after the game the other day, you were very humble about your part in both of those goals. When you stepped on, I know you were in a mood with Gareth when you first get on. How did you get out of that immediately?
Well, at club, there's a guy called Michael Caulfield. He's always talking about controlling your emotions, and I feel like in that moment it was time to control your emotions. Yes, I'm annoyed, but there's still 30 minutes of football to play, and you got to come out of that mood and focus. And I mean, there's a lot more to give. I felt for myself, so yeah, there's 30 minutes of football, and you got to play your part, and I managed to do that.
How much do we all get a bit too obsessed maybe about starting positions? And Gareth always talks about finishers and that people know their roles. How's the game changed from your perspective, playing now for England as one of effectively those finishers?
Yeah, I feel like yeah, people call them substitutes, people like to call them finishers, and I think in a tournament like this, everybody's going to be needed. Whether it's just being around a squad and helping others and or coming on. So I think you just have to be ready, and it's going to take more than 11 players to win this tournament.
And just finally, positions change a lot. And it felt like you played so many different formations toward the end. I spoke to you about 4-4-2, went to 3 at the back. Is it literally just a case of you know the next role to do depending on who's coming on, or you're just working it out there and then?
Yeah, we know the next role, and like I've seen towards the end of the game, going into extra time, there was a lot of attacking players on the pitch, and we had to shuffle everyone about. Players playing in positions they don't normally play, but the quality of players we have are capable of doing that. So we had to have a reshuffle, and we got over the line in the end.
Hi, Miguel Aqueso for the Swiss TV. Murat Yakin, the coach, yesterday said he had big respect for England, but maybe he can feel in the Swiss team for the first time the opportunity to beat you. What is your answer, and how do you see this game?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. There are some quality players, and they're a great side, and they're doing very well in this tournament at the moment. So full respects to them, but like we said, we can just concentrate on ourselves and concentrate on what we can do best, and hopefully the players in the starting 11 and the players coming on is more than enough to win the game.
What kind of game do you expect? A big battle, a rough?
Yeah, every game's going to be a battle, and like I said, they have quality players, so we just have to be up to the test and ready to work hard and be in for a fight, which I know the Swiss will put up.
Hi, Ivan. There were some moments in extra time against Slovakia where you take the ball down, win a free kick, and you get a huge standing ovation from the England fans. How aware were you of the atmosphere at that point?
Yeah, it's a lot of relief. Slowing the game down when you're in front is just kind of like game management. I brought my qualities into play. Obviously, hold the ball up and get us up the pitch. So, like I said, everybody's got a part to play. Whether it's 1 minute or 30 minutes, you have to be ready to do that.
And how much did you and the lads sense that all the England fans were behind you at that point in the game?
Yeah, well, you heard the noise. The atmosphere was top, and I think they played their part in getting us over the line.
And finally, have the dramatic circumstances of the Slovakia win, has that changed the mood in the camp over the last few days?
A little bit, but it's still, we take game at a time. The mood's obviously still high. It's always been high. Everybody's full of confidence, and hopefully we can take the momentum into the next game.
Thanks, Jack. We'll go with James Holly next.
Hi, Ivan. Just following on from that, really. Just, obviously the late equaliser, it came so late in the game. Does that give you, as a group, confidence that, if you go behind against Switzerland, you can pull it out right to the end? It's sort of never give up kind of spirit.
Well, yeah, the plan is not to go behind in the first place. But if we do, then yeah, I think the character the boys have shown throughout their career, let alone this tournament, that we've all been there before and we all know what it takes to come out of that. So we just got to keep going for 90 plus minutes, and hopefully we can pull it off.
And can you tell us, have you done any shape work in training as a two? Have you trained that way at all, or is it all just with one up front?
Well, we more concentrate on the opposition that we're coming up against, so we just kind of do them kind of movements and repetitions of them.
Do you think it might be something we could see?
We'll have to ask the gaffer. I'm not the manager here, so.
And just finally for me, it's a difficult topic, this one, but the 3 England players who missed penalties in the last Euros final were racially abused, and that is something that you've had to deal with in Brentford. Would it put you off taking a penalty if the time came?
I'm a confident person. If I score, I score. If I miss, I miss. I mean, we have to step up, and you have to have the courage to take a penalty. So what would be. But yeah, for those that racially abuse a player for missing a penalty or doing something wrong, then more fool them.
Where do you find that confidence to be able to shut that out?
I think it's within the people around you, and I think the manager puts the trust into you. So it's kind of everyone around you, really.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. We'll start walking towards the back there, and then to.
Hi, Evan. I know your game time has been limited, but do you feel like as a player you've grown just by being around the camp at a major tournament like this?
Yeah, for sure. The quality in the team and on the bench is frightening. And yeah, this standard of football is where I do see myself. So it's improved me as a player and as a person also.
Can you learn things within training at international level that you can with at club level as well?
Yeah, every day I'm trying to learn new things, you know. And with players like this, everyone's trying to help each other. And it's like right now I'm not playing games, so it's giving me that extra bit of hunger to take my opportunity when the chance comes.
Another player who's making his tournament debut, Kobbie Mainoo, has impressed. What has he been like around the camp and around training? Is it impressive that one so young can look so at home already in the England team? Yeah, I mean, everybody knows his qualities, and for his club football, he's played a massive part of this season. And yeah, he just carries himself so well. On the pitch, everyone sees, he does not one bit look out of place, and he has a bright future ahead of him.
Thanks. Finish with two at the back. Dan Rowan, then Jerry Lawton.
Cheers, Andy. Hi, Ivan. Do you think England deserve a little bit more credit and respect for how they've played at this tournament? There's been criticism. For example, the manager got a bit of booing after the Slovenia goalless draw, cups thrown at him. And yet here you are, you're 2 wins away from a first ever final in a major tournament overseas. So do you think they've been a bit harshly treated? Because I guess there's a sort of expectation that surrounds this team now. Is that the issue? Yeah, that's always going to be expectation. And there's a lot of people that's always going to have their opinion, and they're entitled to it. But I mean, if we win 2-0, people will say we should have won 3-0, 4-0, and that's always the case. But like you said, we're 2 games away from a major final, and yeah, we just got to do what we can do, and hopefully it'll be enough. And when you've come so close as you were to being knocked out and going home, and have had this reprieve, I mean, this incredible comeback, does it give you even more determination and resolve to take advantage of that, of what those circumstances, and see it through now? Yeah, for sure. I think that was kind of like an eye-opening that you could be going home any minute, and the relief after in the dressing room was kind of like, right now, boys, it's time to kick on. And I think we got the character and the quality of players in the dressing room to do so. So hopefully we can do that now. Where did that rank in your career in terms of the sheer emotion, the excitement, the relief that you encountered in those few minutes, which obviously you played a key role in, but afterwards as well? I mean, just describe what it was like. Yeah, it's probably one of the best feelings in my career. Obviously, it's my first major tournament. In the dying seconds of being heading home, and Jude does that, then playing a part into H pointing the back of the net, it's got to be up there. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. And finish with Jerry Lawton.
Hi, Ivan. Jerry from the Star. Good luck. Just wondering, did you ever, at any point in the 95th minute, lose belief and actually think about packing your toothbrush and we're on our way home?
No, not at all, really. Because, like I said, in the dying moments in a lot of football games, there's always going to be one big chance. We seen in the game yesterday, the Turkey game. One of the players had a header in the dying moments, and the keeper was pulled off a magnificent save. So it's just that belief. If you have that belief in going into the final moments, then a chance will fall to someone, and you just have to be ready to take it.
I was just wondering, you come from grassroots football, you've grown all the way up. Who were your inspirations for England when you were watching big tournament football? And did you ever actually imagine that you would be sitting here on the eve of a quarter-final in such a significant game?
Growing up, obviously I used to watch, you see all the England players. There's no individuals, just the whole team. At tournaments, friendlies, you see it on the TV and think, one day I want to be there. And I'm here now, so it's a big feeling, and yeah, I'm just excited to play a part, and whether it be, like I said, 1 minute or 90 minutes, I'm just ready to be involved.
Just to finally have you got a message for the fans? The atmosphere in the stadium was incredible. There was almost a pause when the equalising goal went in disbelief, and then it went crazy. Germany has gone crazy since. How important is that support for you guys to know that everybody in the nation is 100% behind you?
Yeah, it's very important. I think, like I said, in football, you need that 12th man, and the fans are that. So when they're behind us, cheering us on, clapping and creating the atmosphere, it does push the players forward. And I'm sure they'll be doing that with the next game and the games going forward. And we love the videos when everyone's up back home, beers going everywhere, and the excitement. So hopefully that can continue.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jerry. We're going to move into the embargo section first. Are you happy to your question in the embargo section? Yep. 10:30 UK time. Stephen, from this point onwards.
Well, there we're going to leave that news conference. Ivan Toney admitting that those reports that he had the hump when he was brought on in that last match against Slovakia with a minute to go was true, but he said he had to control his emotions, get out of his mood, and once there was the equaliser, get that vital assist for Harry Kane's winning goal. He talked about the mood in the squad still being high after that victory. But of course, they face Switzerland over the weekend. And of course, Switzerland are really good side in recent tournaments. They've been together a long while, so that is stiff opposition. But Ivan Toney talking there to journalists in Germany. Breaking news regarding the general election, because let me tell you, the Reuters news agency is just reporting that the UK's Sun newspaper says that the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has won the right to take charge. So a significant moment there with the Sun newspaper saying, and I'll repeat it, the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, has won the right to take charge. And of course, over the weekend, we had the Financial Times and Sunday Times also endorsing Labour. Let's go to Nick Eardley. He is travelling with the Conservatives. Well, it's been a difficult day already, but another difficult piece of news for the campaign team there to absorb.
Yeah, it is, Matthew, because the Sun has a track record of backing the winner. Some debate about whether it backs the winner when they look likely or whether it helps shape the narrative ahead of election day. But certainly a bit of a coup for Keir Starmer to have the backing of the Sun. It's interesting because when you read the editorial that they've posted on the website, I think it's fair to say it's a bit of a guarded endorsement. They do say that they still have questions about some of Sir Keir's policy. They do say that they think Rishi Sunak has some good policies. But the ultimate conclusion that that newspaper, with its big readership, has reached is that the Tories are, in their words, exhausted and need a period in opposition, and that Labour should have a chance to govern because Keir Starmer changed his party. So that is one development in the last few minutes. But the bigger question, I think, that's being asked on the campaign trail with the Conservatives today is, have they thrown the towel in? We've heard senior cabinet ministers suggesting that this morning, talking about a significant Labour majority after the election, talking about voting Tory to ensure a strong opposition. We've just been asking Rishi Sunak about that in a press huddle, which, as I've been saying over the last few days, is basically where a lot of journalists get to ask him questions off camera, on the record. And he's insisted, no, he is not throwing in the towel. He is going to keep fighting until the last minute. He is insisting that there are still a lot of undecided voters out there and a lot of wavering voters who could make a big difference. But he's also told us, Matthew, that whatever happens tomorrow, and if the Tories do get thumped, as some people are predicting, he will take full responsibility. That's pretty interesting because over the last few days he's been talking about the cards that he was dealt and some of what came before him, but saying whatever happens tomorrow, Rishi Sunak will take full responsibility. And as we've been hearing, there are plenty of Conservatives who think it's going to be a pretty grim day.
Nick, I just want to take you back to that news that you were talking about, that we were breaking, what the Sun has just said. I just want to show, there it is on the front page. Do head to the BBC News website, the very latest on there, and that clearly the top line, time for a new manager. So very, very interesting. Nick, just give me your assessment. I know it's difficult. These are early minutes after that apparent endorsement. But in terms of Sir Keir Starmer and the relationship with Rupert Murdoch, what has that been like over the years?
It's a strange front page, actually, when you look at it, isn't it? Because it doesn't actually mention Labour. You need to get inside and have a look at the editorial before you see any mention of the Labour leader. It just says, as Britain goes to the polls, it's time for a new manager, and perhaps inevitably there's a bit of a pun there about the footballing situation when it comes to the England team. Look, I mean, there is no doubt that part of Keir Starmer's outreach programme, part of his desire to make his party a bit more business friendly, has included the media. He's been doing a lot of interviews with newspapers that are perhaps traditionally not that fond of the Labour Party. There's been a lot of work going on to try and woo Telegraph readers, to try and woo Daily Mail readers, to try and woo people. You know, I think Starmer sees that front page. I assume he's seen it by now. He will be pretty chuffed, actually, because it does two things. It that Labour are more than likely to win the general election tomorrow. The Sun normally backs winners, and this, they will hope, Labour will hope, will be another example. The second thing it does, I think, and this is perhaps the more significant thing today, it gives the sense that Labour have built a bit of a coalition of voters, not just the traditional heartlands that backed the party in the past, but also some parts of the country that have been reluctant to vote Labour in the past. It's fascinating to see where Keir Starmer's been over the last few days in the Cotswolds, in Oxfordshire, in parts of the country that have normally been Tory blue. Labour think they have a chance of winning some seats for the very first time. And the fact that they have the endorsement of a paper like The Sun, I think, will give them more hope that tomorrow could be a really big moment for the party.
Nick Eardley there with the Conservatives. Thanks very much. Let's stay with that, repeat that breaking news if you've just joined us, because it is being reported. I mentioned the Reuters news agency, AFP, and you saw the front page there of the Sun newspaper saying it is time for a new manager as the country heads to the polls. Let's bring in the latest from Labour. We'll talk to Jess Parker. She's on the campaign bus in a moment. But it is really a significant moment, because I was saying before we went to Nick that over the weekend we saw the Financial Times endorse Labour. We also saw the Sunday Times endorse Labour. So for Labour, that was obviously good news. But of course, the tabloids, the Sun newspaper, has always boasted about calling the general elections in the lead-up days. You'll remember, of course, going into the last election, what was being said that time, the polar opposite. But this time, as we head to the polls, time for a new manager. Well, let's head to the Labour campaign bus. So we were just establishing the line to Jess Parker. I think we got it. So let's bring her in now. Jess, that development happening in the last few moments. I know it is very early to get any sort of reaction, but looking at this on the surface, another boost on this, the final day for Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had any reaction just yet. To tell you the truth, we have just landed in Scotland, having been on a flight with the Labour leader, where, as you'll know, it can be pretty hard to get any internet access. So that news coming in fresh to us as well. But I am sure at the next event, maybe we can try and press for some reaction on that breaking news story. And it comes, of course, at a moment where, when you speak to activists and campaigners, they are already feeling pretty energised, pretty excited. Yes, the public messaging is one of caution, for sure, as Labour get out all parties try and get out their vote with different types of messaging for security.
Well, apologies. Jess started that by saying they had just landed and there were signal difficulties, and that's exactly how it's transpired. The perils of the bus. I'm being told that the line has just come back. So, do you know what? I'm going to try it once again. Jess, we lost you for a moment. Why don't you pick up?
Yes, sorry about that. I don't know quite when you lost the signal there, but I was just saying the mood already amongst activists and campaigners is one of excitement. I was in the room earlier today in Wales, so we've flown up from Wales to Scotland. Incidentally, just to bring you a little bit of a tidbit from the campaign, on the same plane, I'm told, that took the England football team over to Germany, and Sir Keir Starmer, one flight attendant, told me was even sitting in the same seat as the manager, Gareth Southgate, but that's a little bit of a side note. But earlier when we were at this event, the mood was definitely upbeat. There was a long, loud applause for Sir Keir Starmer as he came into the room. There is certainly a feeling from Labour activists that they feel they could be getting close to power. Polling day, of course, still to come, but the mood is certainly high. And that is, of course, they've had a poll lead over this 6-week campaign that they have maintained a significant poll lead, despite criticism of the Labour campaign, that it's been unambitious, that it's even been boring. But they seem to have had a relatively smooth campaign, certainly compared to the Conservatives. So I think at the moment the Labour camp feeling pretty happy where they are on the eve of polling day.
Also got a stable line, Jess. Let me ask you a quick supplementary question, because I was listening to Harriet Harman, the former deputy leader, only a day or so ago, who was saying all this talk about a Labour supermajority. In her view, she thought that would be a good thing because it would enable Sir Keir Starmer to get stuff done.
Yeah, so Sir Keir is really reluctant to go into the language of supermajorities. It is ironically something that is pretty much being played down by Labour. What he has said, though, is he would like a strong mandate. Now, that is hardly a surprising thing for, I suppose, somebody who's standing to be a Prime Minister effectively is going to say. But he certainly isn't being drawn into the language of a supermajority. But look, I think whoever comes into government, they are facing enormous challenges. I was at a Q&A with workers at a warehouse yesterday, just trying to keep track, and Sir Keir Starmer was being asked about what are you going to do about illegal immigration, small boats crossings? What are you going to do about NHS waiting lists? Now, of course, the Labour Party point to their manifesto and things that they've said, and critics will say that their answers to this are not adequate. They would refute that. But there is no debate, I think, that the challenges faced in the UK are extremely significant. So I'm sure that he will be hoping for some kind of strong mandate if indeed Labour wins this election. But it was interesting when I spoke to him earlier, following the comments from Mel Stride, the Conservatives going around saying they think that Labour's going to get a super majority. And Sir Keir Starmer's view is this was a Tory tactic to try and suppress the Labour vote. That's what he said, to suppress the vote. And he criticised that, as he saw it, as a tactic coming from the Conservatives. So again, I think we're just going to keep seeing this focus over these closing hours now as we approach polling day by the Labour Party to try and motivate people to go out and vote for them, because they might fear that the messaging coming out of the Conservatives and others could lead people to think, oh, well, it's a done deal, or perhaps lead them to waver as well. And of course, that's exactly what they don't want. And Labour is saying that they think that there are seats there where there could be just a few hundred votes in it, as is often the case in any general election. But that's certainly the messaging they're putting out there.
Jess Parker, you must be on a flat bit because the line has been incredibly stable for the last little while, but we will leave you there for the next little while. But Jess Parker there, travelling with the Labour campaign. Let's go to another bus. Let's go to Tom Simons. He's with the Liberal Democrats campaign. And Tom, Ed Davey has been talking about no caps on the ambition in terms of the number of Lib Dem MPs, not necessarily putting a figure on it, but they are really keen to make the point that if Labour win a majority, the Liberal Democrats' task is to keep them focused on things like the NHS and social care in particular, with the accusation that the main parties haven't really been talking enough about those sorts of areas.
Yeah, and Ed Davey's been talking about it every single time we've interviewed him, every time he's given a speech. Social care, the NHS and water quality often comes up in his rhetoric. As you say, he has talked about the importance, he says, the Liberal Democrats will play in opposition to a big Labour government majority. He won't say, actually, that he could be the official opposition, the second party in the UK, even though some polls have suggested that that is a possibility. They may be outliers. He has talked about potentially being the third party, because currently they're the fourth party after the Scottish Nationalist Party. And he said that will bring some benefits under the rules of the House of Commons, more questions, for example, in question time, that sort of thing. And so he is saying that he thinks that the Lib Dems can get into third place. Just to give you a bit of an idea of what some of the strategists of the party have been telling us on the bus this week, the problem the Lib Dems have had in the past is that they've tried to fight election campaigns as though there was a proportional representation system in the UK, where the number of votes you get matches up to the number of seats you get as a result. In recent years, they decided to abandon that and instead ruthlessly target seats that they thought they could win. About 90 seats where, for example, the Liberal Democrats are in second place to the Conservatives. And their hope is that though they may not massively increase the share of their vote, they will massively increase the number of seats they get, just from taking that strategy as part of their playbook. And they won't say how many seats they hope to win, but if they currently have 8, which is the number after you consider boundary changes. If they get to 24, 25, not such a good night. 30s, not bad at all. 40s, 50s, 60s, that's a good night. And some polls have even suggested 70 seats, which would leave them in a position where they're challenging the Conservatives as the official opposition.
Tom, just give me an idea of the geography, the miles being done on a day like today, because traditionally on this last day it's pretty frenetic, isn't it, as the leaders try to sort of get to all parts of the country?
Well, the Lib Dems unveiled a pretty mad plan last week, which unfortunately I was signed up to, but it has been an enjoyable experience, it has to be said, to travel right up to the northern tip of Scotland, to John O'Groats, then to come through Scotland down towards Cheltenham in the west of England, then down to the south coast, Eastbourne, back up to Oxfordshire, the Cotswolds, then right down to the furthest tip of Cornwall, Land's End, where we were yesterday evening, and now we're wending our way back through the home counties towards London. 1,300 miles in total, but what makes all of those destinations important to the Lib Dems is that they fit into that strategy of targeting the seats where they can push out usually the Conservatives and take a seat for potentially quite a low percentage of the vote. And so we've seen these stunts that Ed Davey has been doing, which have started to win him the air war, as they call it, the national media coverage that is so important for a small party to try to get, but also keeping activists active on the ground by going and seeing them and giving speeches, rousing speeches with those orange diamond placards that the Lib Dems have become known for. And getting out the vote will be another issue tomorrow, where another big job tomorrow, where the party activists go out and find people who say they're going to vote Lib Dem and make sure they do go and vote Lib Dem.
Tom Simons there with the Liberal Democrats. Thanks to you for the latest from the campaign trail. More from Tom a little later in the programme. Welcome to BBC News. If you're just joining us, time is 3:30. Let's stay with this general election campaign in this, the last day of full campaigning. In the last few minutes, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has been speaking on the trail in Hampshire. And it's worth pointing out before we hear from him, he was speaking before that breaking news that we just brought you, that the Sun newspaper has said it was now backing Sir Keir Starmer.
Every vote matters tomorrow. Just 130,000 people could change the outcome of this election. That's what the latest analysis shows. So if people want lower taxes, they want their pensions protected, and they want to prevent a Labour supermajority, there's only one thing to do tomorrow, and that's to vote Conservative.
That's not what your party is saying, though, is it? Is your only tactic left to try and scare people into voting?
No, what Mel was doing was pointing out the dangers of a Labour government with an unchecked majority, a blank cheque to do what they want, and that means people's taxes are going to go up. It means they're going to pay tax on the state pension for the first time in our country's history. It means we'll make no progress on migration. So if you don't want those things to happen, if you want your taxes cut and our borders secure and your pension protected, then you've got to vote Conservative to make those things happen and prevent that Labour supermajority.
One very last-minute intervention by Boris Johnson last night. Now Suella Braverman saying the election is already over. Do you think one of the problems of your campaign, consistent with recent years for your party, is that you have been incapable of pulling together as a team?
Now, I appreciate people have frustrations with our party. Of course I do. We haven't got everything perfectly right, haven't made as much progress in every area as we would have liked. But tomorrow's vote is not a by-election on the past. It is a vote about the future. It's a choice for our country and for every family and the consequence of that choice for them. And I don't want people's taxes to go up under a future Labour government. I want to keep cutting them. I want to protect people's pensions, because I think if you've worked hard all your life, you deserve security in retirement, not pay a retirement tax for the first time in our country's history under Labour, and I want to make sure our borders are secure and continue to reduce migration as we are. So that's the offer for people. Tomorrow's vote is an important one for the country. I know lots of people haven't made up their mind, so I just ask people, look, I get frustrations with the past, but think about what a Labour government would mean for your family. Can you afford to pay thousands of pounds of higher taxes? Do you want to pay tax on your pension for the first time? If the answer to those things is no, then vote Conservative.
And can I ask, what are your plans for Friday? Of course, you're hoping that you're still Prime Minister, but you must have mentally prepared for a different outcome.
Yeah, I'm working very hard until the last minute of this campaign for every vote, and you've been out with me across the country seeing that, and yesterday was a long day, because I really believe lots of people have not made up their mind, and that's why I'm keen to talk to as many people as possible before the polls close tomorrow, to make sure everyone understands that choice ahead of them. And it's a very simple choice. If you want your taxes cut, your pension protected, our border secure, and you want to prevent that Labour supermajority, then vote Conservative. Your vote will make a difference. Lots of people want to say this is a foregone conclusion. Analysis shows that's not true. Your vote can make a difference to preventing that majority and having your taxes cut and your pension protected. So get out there and vote Conservative.
The recriminations for the campaign seem to have started already. Are you ready for the blame to be laid at your door?
Yeah, I think no one gets into politics without being ready for criticism. That comes with the territory. But look, I am proud that this campaign has shone a spotlight on Labour's plans to raise people's taxes. I think it's important that people know that that's what's coming down the track if Labour are elected, and particularly with a blank cheque to do what they want. I don't want that to happen to people. We've been through a tough few years, and just when things are now starting to improve, inflation is down, wages are up, the economy's growing, taxes are being cut, all that progress will be put at risk if Labour were in charge. Taxes would go up, people's financial security would be damaged. I don't want to see that happen, so I'm going to keep going to the last second.
Rishi Sunak talking in the last little while. Now let's head to Scotland. Our reporter there, Katie Hunter, well, she has been speaking to the SNP leader, John Swinney.
Well, the SNP leader, John Swinney, like all the other party leaders, throwing everything at the campaign trail today on the last full day of campaigning. The battle bus left here about 45 minutes ago. We'll catch up with it later on. But John Swinney's message today, the same that he's been focusing on over the last few days. He is saying that, in his opinion, the election is a done deal in England, that Labour will win, that Sir Keir Starmer will be the next Prime Minister. But he says it's a very different situation in Scotland, that the vote is on a knife edge. It's too close to call between the SNP and Labour. And what John Swinney has been saying consistently through this campaign is that if Labour do win the election, is that it will be more of the same. And he's saying that for voters in Scotland, in his opinion, that they need to vote SNP to give people a strong voice at Westminster.
Katie Hunter, well, let's stay in Scotland, because as the parties and politicians finish the race to win your votes, BBC Newsbeat's trying to complete their race across the UK, speaking to young voters right across the country about the issues they care most about. But have their politics reporter Jordan Kenny actually made it to the finish line in Inverness? Let's join Newsbeat's presenter Callum Leslie. We've been watching this for the last few days. Have you actually done it?
Well, Matthew, you join us in a pit lane at a go-kart track, because any race does need a finish line. After 3 weeks from right down in the bottom of Cornwall and Newquay up to Inverness here in the Highlands, we have finally made it, and I am delighted to say that our politics reporter Jordan, my earpiece that's fallen out, yeah, I'll take that back, thank you, has made it. Jordan, tell us a bit about the race and how it's gone.
Yeah, we're here, we're in Inverness, we made it to the finish line. Yeah, this is, there's your other AirPod gone, this is the finish line after 3 weeks of racing from the bottom of the UK right up to the top. So 3 weeks ago we started in Newquay in Cornwall, and the idea was we were going to zigzag our way right up to here in Inverness, with the Newsbeat listeners setting the checkpoints along the way. And at each stop we've been speaking to young people about what's most important to them ahead of the election. So yeah, 3 weeks, I'm a bit tired, but it's been really good fun.
Yeah, and while you've been doing that, loads of issues have come up, loads of different things that people have been talking to you about, but there are themes that have been common every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in specific areas, individual issues have come up across the way, but across the board, there has been broader issues that have come up at every single checkpoint. The biggest one, cost of living. Everywhere we've gone, young people have wanted to talk to us about the cost of living. They're saying right now in the UK, they're struggling to afford to live, and they want to know what the next government is going to do about that. So that's one of the big things the young people are thinking about ahead of the vote tomorrow. Other issues, the NHS telling us they want to see action on waiting lists. They want more money put into it. And another one, housing. Young people telling us it's now a pipe dream to be able to afford to buy their own house. And they are looking at what parties are saying on these issues ahead of choosing who to vote for if they decide to vote tomorrow.
And we've also been in Inverness today talking to 18-year-old Ruby and a 21-year-old called Flynn, who here have been talking a lot about living quite a long way away from a lot of other big cities and towns and how they cope with that as young people as well. Those are the people that are voting and the issues they care about. That's not everyone.
No, along the way, we have been speaking to people, as you say, about what issues would maybe make them go out and vote, but a lot of young people telling us they won't be doing that. Why? They say they don't trust politicians in some cases. They don't think their vote will make a difference, is another reason we've been hearing. And some young people telling us they're not voting simply because they don't know how. That was what Kyle, who we spoke to in Newcastle, said. He's 21, and he says he has no idea how to vote. He says there should be greater education from, I don't know, politicians, from the government, if they want young people to come out and vote. That's what he's calling for. But he missed the deadline because he didn't know he had to register, so he won't be voting tomorrow.
Yeah. Now listen, it's been a lot of work for you over the last few weeks. I know you're desperate to get back into that go-kart and get back out on the track.
I'm heading
Jordan,
to the track.
Get your helmet on. He's going to head back out onto the track. Matthew, there we go. After 3 weeks, 15 checkpoints, we finally made it to Inverness here in Scotland, having spoken to young voters right across the UK. We'll leave Jordan for a bit of fun and head back to you in the studio. Thank you.
Well done to Jordan. It looks too much fun, but it's been fascinating listening to those stories as you've gone right across the country. Thanks to both of you. Thanks a lot. Let's hear from the Greens, because the Green Party's co-leader Carla Denyer has said the Greens are the best party to hold a potential Labour government to account. Have a listen.
The level of support has been phenomenal. I've been stopped in the street repeatedly by people asking for a selfie or even for a hug. And the fact that often these people have been those on lower incomes who are struggling in the cost of living crisis, I think is a real testament that the Green Party are the only party offering the level of change, the level of investment that's needed in our public services. The Green Party is offering real hope in this campaign, hope that a small group of Green MPs can bring by pulling the incoming Labour government in the right direction, whether that's on climate, whether that's on tackling the cost of living crisis or the housing crisis. Fairness has always been at the absolute core of Green Party policy. Our approach is that the inequalities in our society and climate change and environmental degradation are two sides of the same coin. Some of the causes are the same and many of the solutions are the same. So viewers will have, I'm sure, seen me many times talking about one of our flagship policies, a nationwide home installation programme, because that helps to bring down people's bills, it brings down their carbon emissions, and it gives them warmer, more comfortable homes where they can be healthier, and then that in turn reduces costs on the NHS. So policies like this, green policies, are a win-win-win, and we think that's why so many people are excited to vote Green this time around. I think the parties that have rolled back on their climate commitments will see the results of that in this election. When Sunak rolled back on some of his environmental commitments a while ago, including the speed of rollout of electric vehicles, I assume he did that because he thought he was going to get a polling bounce out of it. But in fact, the Conservatives got a poll bounce of precisely 0%. What's more, he got a big negative response from even the automotive industry themselves, who had already planned their businesses on the basis of the original electric vehicle rollout and decarbonisation schedule. So the businesses want politicians to go faster on tackling climate change. The voters want politicians to go faster on tackling climate change. So this Thursday, the 4th of July, if you want green policies, you can vote for the Green Party. We're standing our largest slate of parliamentary candidates all over England and Wales, and you can get more Greens elected to hold the incoming Labour government to account.
Carla Denyer from the Greens. Just a pointer, do head to the BBC website because all the very latest on our live page, the breaking news of the last 10-15 minutes or so, that endorsement from the Sun newspaper for Sir Keir Starmer, and we'll have plenty more reaction to that and all the other lines. We'll be back out with our election teams crisscrossing the country in these last frenetic hours. Let's turn away from that for the next little while because to breaking news in the last half an hour or so, because Captain Sir Tom Moore's daughter Hannah Ingram Moore and her husband Colin have been disqualified from being charity trustees by the Charity Commission. The family has just released a statement. The Ingram Moore family said they fundamentally disagree with the Charity Commission's decision to disqualify them following an investigation. The Charity Commission opened a case into the Captain Tom Foundation shortly after his death in 2021 and launched an inquiry in June 2022. It came amid concerns about its management and independence from Sir Tom's family. The statement said, "We fundamentally disagree with the conclusions reached by the Charity Commission. Despite our vehement objections to the disqualification order, we've made the extremely difficult decision not to pursue an appeal. The profound emotional upheaval and financial burden make such a course of action untenable. We fully cooperated with the Charity Commission at all times." Now, people in Jamaica have been warned to stock up on food and water and stay indoors as Hurricane Beryl bears down on the island. With winds of up to 150 miles per hour, the hurricane has claimed at least 7 lives as it's moved through the Caribbean. Let's get the latest from Thomas McGill.
Union Island, just off St Vincent and the Grenadines, is the latest part of the Caribbean to feel the full force of Hurricane Beryl, with 90% of its homes either destroyed or damaged. In Grenada, it's a similar story, where power lines are down and roofs have been ripped off buildings by the hurricane's deadly force. Its Prime Minister has been assessing the devastation and says the island of Carriacou has been very badly affected.
It is almost Armageddon-like, almost total damage or destruction of all buildings, whether they be public buildings, homes, or other private facilities. There is literally no vegetation left anywhere on the island of Carriacou.
Hurricane Beryl now threatens Jamaica as a...
Next in its path is Jamaica, where people are being urged to stock up on food, water and candles. These satellite images shows Beryl from space as it crosses the Caribbean, its size and power visible. And this is how it looks in the Dominican Republic, where high tides, heavy rain and strong winds of more than 240 kilometres per hour have been relentlessly battering its coastline. As some communities across the region start to assess the damage and devastation, others in Jamaica and Mexico are preparing to batten down the hatches, hoping this Category 4 hurricane will begin to weaken in the coming hours. Thomas McGill, BBC News.
Well, let's speak to a hurricane expert, Michael Lowry from the Miami-based WPLG TV. Michael, welcome here to the programme. Why don't you start by talking about the power of this hurricane? What conditions have led up to it breaking so many records?
Thank you for having me, Matthew. Yeah, this is an historic hurricane for a number of reasons, but it is the earliest that we've seen this strong of a hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean. Typically, we don't see hurricanes of this magnitude until we get to late August and September. There are a lot of factors involved here, including pristine upper-level conditions that led to Beryl's rapid strengthening, but the primary reason is the water temperatures are extremely warm. We're seeing waters on the order of 29 degrees Celsius, which is the sort of temperatures that we don't see until the peak months of the hurricane season.
That's this one, but more broadly, it's a pretty hyperactive hurricane season. Why are we seeing that?
That again goes back to the conditions in the ocean and the conditions in the atmosphere. The waters across the tropical Atlantic are as warm as we've ever seen them in the record books, and by a wide margin. We're also expecting there to be La Nina conditions in the eastern equatorial Pacific, a relative cooling in the Pacific Ocean that tends to reduce the wind shear that can be hostile to hurricane development in the Atlantic. So the combination of those two factors have led government forecasters in the United States to put out their highest levels of hurricane outlook going back 30 or 40 years.
And what are you expecting when we see it hit in Jamaica? Because I was reading out wind speeds. There's also the danger from storm surges. Which is the more dangerous?
Typically, water is the most dangerous part of a hurricane. About 90% of deaths are associated with water historically, and that includes the storm surge. The forecast is for up to 9 feet of devastating, potentially catastrophic storm surge. And on top of that, we have battering waves that'll be destructive at the coast. This is going to come awfully close to Jamaica, if not move right over them. The forecast right now has it moving just to the south, but bringing still the core of the strong winds over the island here in the coming hours.
How fast is it moving? And we always talk about climate change, but is that impacting? Are we seeing more of these hurricane and storm forces actually hitting areas where you are?
It's moving very quickly. So it's moving at about 23 miles per hour, which is quick for a storm of this strength. In terms of climate change, we know the relationship is there. The fact that the waters are as warm as they are, as early as they are, the background in all of this is global warming and climate change. So certainly the fingerprints of climate change are all over the tropics right now.
Michael Lowry, we will leave it there. Thanks very much. Thank you. I just want to take you to a line that I'm just seeing being reported by the New York Times. It is really significant, but it is that Joe Biden has apparently told an ally that he is weighing whether to continue in the race. All of this, of course, the fallout after that disastrous debate with Donald Trump. But the New York Times is reporting that Joe Biden has told an ally that he is weighing up whether to continue in the race. We, of course, have seen the White House and Joe Biden put it down to the amount of travel, international travel he's done in recent weeks. Initially, straight after that debate, it was said that Joe Biden had a cold, but you will remember what you saw in that debate at different times. Joe Biden losing his track, not getting to the end of sentences, and that front page of Time magazine, you may remember it, where it just said panic time, and that giving a sense of how Democrats had responded to watching their presidential candidate for 2024 actually fight that debate with Donald Trump. There were so many occasions when Donald Trump said things that stretched the truth or were simply untrue, and all of that, those apparent open goals, certainly Joe Biden didn't push back as strongly as so many Democrats had wanted. And that, of course, started the massive reaction and conversation that's happened ever since. I was watching only in the last 12 hours with one phrase being used a lot, which was the cracks in the dam have already started. So that is very, very interesting what the New York Times is reporting. I'll repeat it one more time, that Joe Biden has told an ally that he is weighing up whether to continue in the race. So that is really important in terms of a significant story. We'll have our teams in Washington checking that out. We'll give you the very latest on that. But that line just being reported by the New York Times. Let's turn to Northern Ireland now, where a judge has ruled there is sufficient evidence for the former leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, to face trial over historical sex offence charges. He appeared in court in County Down this morning, along with his wife, who's also being charged. Our Ireland correspondent, Chris Page, has this report.
Sir Geoffrey Donaldson is charged with 18 offences, alleged to have been committed between 1985 and 2008. He's accused of 1 count of rape, 13 of indecent assault and 4 of gross indecency. There were 2 alleged victims. Sir Geoffrey's wife, Lady Eleanor Donaldson, is facing 5 charges of aiding and abetting. They appeared before Newry Magistrates Court for a hearing which lasted 3 minutes. It was held to decide whether there was enough evidence for the case to go to the Crown Court for a trial. During the proceedings, the accused were asked if they wanted to say anything in respect of the charges. Sir Geoffrey Donaldson replied, "Not at this stage." Lady Eleanor Donaldson said, "No." The district judge said he was satisfied there was a case to answer. The date of the next hearing was set for the 10th of September. Earlier this year, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson said in a letter to his former party that he would be strenuously contesting the accusations. Chris Page, BBC News, Newry.
Now, Japan's Supreme Court has ruled that thousands of people sterilised against their will can claim compensation. About 16,000 people, including those with mental illnesses, were forcibly sterilised under eugenics law, which was only scrapped in 1996. 8,000 more are thought to have been pressured into being sterilised. The Supreme Court has now decided that Japan's 20-year statute of limitations does not apply in these cases. Now, they're some of the most successful animated films in history, and this weekend, Despicable Me 4 arrives in cinemas. Our culture correspondent Charlotte Gallagher has been chatting all things Minions with the lead actor at Wimbledon, which helped to inspire some of the new scenes in the film. Have a look.
The most important part of a heist is being aware of potential dangers.
Reformed supervillain Gru and his minions are back again for a new adventure. Despicable Me is one of the world's most successful animated franchises. Lead actor Steve Carell has been in all of the 6 films and has been explaining their appeal to me.
What?
I think ultimately he's a good person. He's fighting against his own goodness because he wants to be bad.
He's desperately trying to be
Desperately wants to be despicable, but he really isn't. I mean, at his core, I don't think he is.
Why do you think the films have been so popular with kids? Because you look at Gru and you think it might not be a character that kids would relate to, or like kind of, he's not cuddly, is he?
The reason I signed on was the writing wasn't condescending towards kids. It was a little edgy. It was a little scary, and I think kids like that. I think kids like it when it's not spoon-fed to them, and they like things that they can kind of figure out on their own, and maybe get a little scared, maybe feel a little uncomfortable, but then laugh really hard. The Minions really bring everything together in terms of the movie.
That doesn't count! And, oh, what?
So, with Steve's character trying tennis, where better to take him than Wimbledon?
There's a scene in which Gru is trying to fit into this new town, and he joins some very snobby local people to play tennis at their club, and he's never played tennis in his life. So he's trying to pretend that he's good at it, and he's clearly not. And the Minions come in and help him out.
What the?
He has the right equipment, but he just doesn't have any of the tennis acumen to pull it off. But it works out okay.
And were you channeling anyone in that scene? Thinking of Andy Murray, Federer, Serena Williams?
Sure. John McEnroe. I was channeling John McEnroe as I was doing Gru.
Dwight, get in.
Carell, of course, is known for another iconic role in The American Office.
And I have to ask you, because so many people have said about Michael Scott, I know you're not going to be involved in The Office, kind of reimagining. Would you ever?
No.
I'm praying now. Would you ever?
No.
No. We want to know what he's up to there.
No. It wouldn't make sense. That crossover wouldn't make sense in any way. I think they just need to have their own show and let it be their show.
For now, Carell seems content with his Minions and that growing all-star cast, including his friend Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell's a genius, I'm going to say it.
He's also moving into soccer, football over here.
Yes.
He's invested in my team, Leeds United.
I heard, yeah.
Would you be tempted to maybe?
No, I think some of my friends have cornered the market on investing.
Listen,
in
anyone will
football
take you. You'll be welcome. You could join in.
How about I could invest in a curling team?
Investing in curling?
Sure.
Despicable Me 4 is expected to rake in around $100 million over its opening weekend. It will be in UK cinemas on the 12th of July. Charlotte Gallagher, BBC News.
Weather in a moment. A reminder, head to the BBC website, our live page on the election, last day of full campaigning. That is the headline story in the last hour. The Sun newspaper coming out saying it's time for a new manager as people head to the polls. So an endorsement for Sir Keir Starmer. More reaction to that news here in just a moment. But let's head to the weather as promised, and that's with Chris Fawkes.
Hello. Well, if you're wondering where summer's gone, you're not the only one. The next few days, temperatures are going to stay at or below average across most parts of the country, and that means the weather continues to be cool through the rest of this week and indeed into the weekend. And really, it's all down to the jet stream position, which is running more or less over the UK. We've got these troughs in the jet stream, which will develop areas of low pressure. They, in turn, bring us not just cool air, but also showers or some longer spells of rain. Now, through the rest of the afternoon, the wettest weather is going across Scotland, but the cloud further south across England and Wales, thick enough to give us an odd spit of rain. Brighter weather pushing into Northern Ireland for a time, but again, there could be 1 or 2 passing showers here. For the most part, temperatures are a few degrees below average for this time of the year. And for the forecast for Wimbledon, cloud could be thick enough to give an odd passing spit of rain today. Tomorrow looks much brighter with some sunshine. It turns just a little bit less cool as well. Now, during this evening and overnight, clouds should clear away from England. We'll have some clearer spells working in later in the night, but showers never far away in Scotland and Northern Ireland. It'll continue to be quite windy for Western Scotland as well. Temperatures overnight dipping down into single figures. That will be giving us a cool start to the day on Thursday. Another day with low pressure in charge. And closest to the centre of the low pressure in Scotland, it's here where we're looking at some showers, probably merging together to give some longer spells of rain for the Highlands, the Hebrides as well. It'll also be quite blustery, and that will certainly add to a coolness to the weather. Further southwards, for Wales, Midlands, East Anglia, southern counties of England, showers few and far between. The weather should be largely dry, and given a bit more sunshine, temperatures push into the low 20s, which will feel okay if you're out and about. Now, we end the week Friday and into the weekend. Another area of low pressure is set to develop pretty much over the top of the country. The first signs of that low pressure on Friday will be bringing rain in across southern areas of England, southern Wales. Bit of uncertainty about the position of this rain band. It could end up going a little bit further northwards. Probably the brightest weather this time for Scotland and for Northern Ireland, but temperatures continue to be a little bit disappointing for the early stages of July, a month which is meant to be, of course, summer. Looking at the longer range outlook, it stays pretty unsettled and generally on the cool side too.